Home of the prodigal son, young Chad Townsend. And Chad Townsend plays on, plays to the whistle, kicks away for Valentine home. Townsend, brilliant.
All right, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Chad Townsend Show. It's week 2, round 1 of the NRL is here. We've got a massive show today, but first, before we get into it, he's back, the producer, Victor Inflictor. Let's bring him in, mate. How are we going today?
Good, mate. How are you?
I'm really good, mate. Really good.
Good first weekend of footy. Hey?
Really good first weekend of footy. Obviously, Vegas we had on the weekend. Second year of Las Vegas. We're going to talk about that and much more on today's show. But yeah, we are going to react to Vegas. The two massive games. One was probably a bit of a surprise outcome, we thought. And the other game was always going to be a close one. So we're going to look at those two games in a bit more detail today on the podcast. We're going to have a look at Halfback House. We're going to have a look at Nathan Cleary versus Nicho Hynes. Have a look at some of their stats and then some of the plays, break down a little bit of their play from this weekend. We're going to have a look at who is the big footy guy of the week. We've got 3 nominations, same as last week, where we will nominate these guys, have a look at their games, look at their stats, look at their involvements in the games. And you guys can get involved in that. Make sure you head over to the Instagram at Chad Townsend Show, where you can vote for your big footy guy of the week. And if you win, just by the chance of voting, you will go in the draw to win a $50 Players Club voucher. So that's going to be awesome. We're going to have a look at what's trending this week. Obviously, it's round 1. We're going to have a little bit of a preview of some of the games this weekend, just to look over some of the news from our teams. Obviously, Team List Tuesday tomorrow. So that's an exciting one to keep out. Love Team List Tuesday. And then we're going to finish off with fan questions. So if you want to ask a question on the show, please make sure you drop your questions below in the comments here on YouTube. We go through all of our all of our comments here on YouTube, and we want to be as interactive as possible. Interact with you guys, our community, get you guys or have you guys the ability to come on the show and be involved. And we've got some rippers today, and also some really cool or interesting, what do you call them? Usernames on YouTube and some profile pics that are just, we're going to have a look at today as well. But we're going to start off with this past week and the biggest moments from this past weekend, which was obviously Vegas. The second time the NRL has been in Vegas in front of 42,000 fans in Sin City. Look, for me, as a fan of the game, I absolutely love it. I think the NRL deserve a massive pat on the back for doing this, taking games to America. I think it's definitely going to grow and grow and grow. I think last year, obviously, I think everyone probably learnt a few lessons on how to do it, even though last year I thought was great, but I just think the product is only going to get bigger and better. The build-up to the week was insane. It looked like the fan days were incredible. So many people were flying over there from New Zealand, Australia, and I thought even just to add a Super League game in there, which was awesome. It was points galore in that game. It took a lot of English fans over to the stadium. It looked like those guys, was chanting and being loud. Obviously, that's what they're known for over in the UK. So for me, look, a massive pat on the back. I love my American sports, and I do think the NRL deserve a lot of credit for doing this big venture over in Vegas, to see so many fans supporting this concept. Any quick notes from you there, Victor, on Vegas as an overall product? What's your take on it?
I think you covered it. Like, obviously compared to last year, I think the fan days looked a lot more of a spectacle.
Yep.
We obviously saw some of the boys dancing on stage, some of the girls dancing on stage, and I think the NRL have just done a really good job with promoting it this year. And I think they're obviously getting better at ironing out some kinks like last year. 2 games compared to 4 this year. I think it's just going to get better.
Definitely
really excited.
Definitely agree. Like I said, I think the addition of the Super League game, obviously the Gillaroos had a massive win as well. That was, to have 4 games, and that's what I think fans want. They want more than probably 2 games or a lot of games to spend a whole day, get value for money with tickets. Obviously, when you spend a lot of money to get over there, I'd like to see obviously the stats of maybe the coverage of, because I did hear it was airing in Fox Sports in America. So it'd be interesting to see what kind of eyeballs we got from the American market and, the kind of impact we had there. So, All right, without further ado, let's look at the first game from Las Vegas. It was the Warriors versus the Raiders. To me, probably a surprising game, to be honest. I tipped the Warriors. I just thought on paper they were probably the favourites heading into the game, obviously with the preseason and the additions they had. But to me, wow, what a performance from the Canberra Raiders. Deserve a massive pat on the back. And I guess it started off, with a bit of hiss-hoss between Morgan Smithies and Hudson Young during the week. Obviously, there was that elevator incident or whatever happened, to be honest. A little bit of a wrestle. The boys being boys, I didn't really think that it was too much, to be honest. But, they had to front the media and probably not the greatest start for them. But it just looked like it kind of galvanised the team. And, when you go out and you have a couple of beers together and you bond together as a team, it does bring you a bit closer. And, to me, it just looked like that didn't rattle the team at all. So that's obviously what they started the week with. And look, I want to make note of Corey Horsburgh in this game. He was absolutely incredible, I thought. He looked great, starting in the front row, comes in from, basically in the wilderness last season. From all reports, it looked like Corey Horsburgh and Ricky Stewart weren't getting along. He wasn't getting picked. It looked like he was on the outer. He was going to leave. He's asked for a release. And all of a sudden now he's back round one starting in the front row. In 59 minutes, he had 3 offloads, 128 metres, 33 tackles, but it was the offloads for me. And just the sheer, I think, aggression that Horsburgh brings. Like, he's going to front up. He'll challenge you. He gets in your face. He loves a bit of lip. And that's what I think teammates, they're the guys that guys love to play with and hate to play against. So Horsburgh deserves a big pat on the back for how he handled that occasion. Anything to add there, Victor? Horsburgh?
Yeah, I think there was reports early in the off-season that Horsburgh was looking real fit.
Yeah.
Real fit. Yeah. And I think this game really showed it. Like, he looked incredible. I was watching him with a bit of a little fine eye because I do have him in my Supercoach team. So I was watching those points tick, and man, yeah, it was good to have him. He looks good.
Oh, good old Supercoach, eh? I'm not a massive Supercoach guy, if I'm honest. But yeah, Horsburgh deserves his flowers from the weekend. What a game he had. James Fisher-Harris, I thought, was solid in his Warriors debut. But to me, it was just like the Warriors just couldn't get it going. I think, I heard Andrew Webster in the post-match press conference say they were very lateral. They seemed like they were sticking to a game plan which had worked for them previously, but maybe they might need to change a few things around that. And I know, look, Luke Metcalf, who we were really high on last week, and I'm a massive fan on, probably didn't have his best game on the weekend, made a couple of errors. I thought his body language was a little bit poor as well after some of those errors, was putting his head down. Look, I'd love to see him not do that. Body language is one of the biggest things you can read off in the game. But for me, Metcalf is a superstar. I know he didn't have the best game on the weekend, but to me, he bounces back straight away. I know how hard this kid works at his craft. I know how serious he takes his game. So for me, I think Metcalf, he's got a lot of improvement in him, and we will see that. His best ability is running the ball, and he probably got criticised for not doing that enough on the weekend. Look for Luke Metcalf to bounce back. He's the guy to fill that number 7 void from Sean Johnson. And I think it was always going to be difficult for whoever started in that number 7 position if you had a bad game, replacing, someone like Sean Johnson, who's, in my opinion, one of the best halfbacks that's ever played the game, a Hall of Fame, halfback. So, it wasn't his best game, but I think once he finds his balance and gets used to more the 7 and controlling the game and finding that balance between his running game, his passing and his game management, because he's literally got it all. He can do it all. He can run the ball. He can break tackles. And to me, I just think, we just need to cool the jets on Metcalf. All the haters just stand back a little bit, let Metcalf do his thing. But the Warriors actually had just as much ball as the Raiders. They actually completed at a higher rate than the Raiders, which was interesting, come the end of the game, because obviously the outcome just went way in front of the Raiders. But for me, the biggest thing that was surprising about the Raiders was their defense. I think it was the most impressive defensive effort I've seen from the Raiders for a long time. And for a team who are not really known for their defense, their ability to just stop tries and just be in the picture was incredible. Something I really enjoyed sitting on the couch yesterday and watching. And that's one thing that probably, hasn't been associated with Raiders in the past, but it just looks like yesterday, like they were just turning up for each other. And I thought it was, a real highlight for me. A big performance from Xavier Savage. Look, I thought he was one of the best on ground yesterday. And it's a really interesting one. I think Xavier Savage came into the NRL a couple of years ago. Sticky wanted him to play fullback. He played fullback. It didn't really work out. But now I really think that he's found a home on the wing. I think Savage yesterday was incredible. His speed, his ability to break tackles was awesome. That obviously intercept where he ran the length. Some of his stats yesterday were really impressive. I'm pretty sure he ran for over 200 metres, 2 tries, 7 tackle breaks, 2 offloads, 1 line break, 218 metres. And this kid, I'm pretty sure he's still only young, early 20s. He's got a lot of growth and maturity to go. But look, for me, great scenes from Savage yesterday off the back of last year as well. Had a really consistent year last year. Was their top try scorer down in the nation's capital. So for me, if he can keep building this year, it looks like he's going to be, a real X factor key for the Raiders. Next, we'll have a quick look at the Ricky Stewart post-match press conference. Look, for me, I absolutely love this. Ricky is known for, I think, firing up his teammates and keeping his team nice and close. And, it's kind of like us against the world. I spent a tiny bit of time with Sticky when I was really young, when I was like 18. I did like my first little few days of preseason when Ricky was coaching the Sharks. That's how long ago this was. People don't even probably really remember that. But let's just play the press conference and see what Ricky's had to say.
Mate, two things I'll say. I said it on the Fox, and there's more tongue-in-cheek because you guys all do write us off, which I don't mind. It's easy for me then. But it's going to be a good competition if we come last, like a lot of you are expecting. It's going to be a tough comp. But no, 100%, we came here to make a statement. Yeah.
So that's Sticky, man. He sticks up for his players. He loves to keep things in-house. And, obviously some, experts had tipped the Raiders to come last this year. And Sticky has a little bit of a tip back or hit back at him, which is why we play. We love that. The back and forth, a bit of banter. It's like if any of you guys were at like a barbecue and, your team pumps someone else and you tipped them to come last or whatever it is. That's why we play. Look, I thought it was great. That's why we play. So, look, the Raiders, a big tick to start the week. To start the year. Round 1 win in Las Vegas. I'm pretty sure. I mean, I don't know if they would they have had a big night last night, the other night, Victor, you reckon, after the brouhaha?
100%. You're in Vegas.
Yeah. You're in Vegas. You've just won round 1. I mean, what are you doing that night? Who knows? Obviously, we're not going to ever know because that's
what happens in Vegas.
That's what happens in Vegas. It stays in Vegas, but you'd think the boys would be hitting the tables, MGM Grand, Hakkasan nightclub. Yeah, I mean, there's some good times to be had over there in Vegas. That's for sure. Let's quickly run through the keys to victory from last week's game, which we spoke about on last week's podcast, which was the Warriors versus Raiders. Now, we did speak about Luke Metcalf as a key to victory for the Warriors. Obviously, we just said didn't have his best game on the weekend. Will be better for the run. I think Luke Metcalf is the starting 7 for the Warriors this year. He will show that class. It'll come out. So Warriors fans, please show a little bit of patience there. And then the next one was if the Raiders forward pack can match the Warriors forward pack. Now, had a look at the starting middle or the starting forwards from both teams here, and the Raiders did just that. Their starting middles had 620 run meters versus the Warriors 496 run meters. So it's clear to me that the Raiders starting pack did dominate that middle part of the field, which we spoke about as being a key to victory. So the Raiders obviously deserve a massive tick there. Their forwards, Horsburgh, which we mentioned, Papali'i, which we haven't mentioned, the veterans still doing good things, and obviously Joseph Tapine, he is at his tackle breaking best. His ability to stand in tackles and get quick play the balls is one of the best in the competition. That shoulder charge, I don't know if you saw that, Victor, but the shoulder charge looks like it may be, what do you think, maybe suspension?
Yeah, it's looking like it. Like, you just can't do it, right? Even though he didn't make contact with the head or anything.
I agree. I think
do
it's probably a smaller, obviously no contact to the head, but no sort of chance, no ability to wrap the shoulder.
Exactly. No intent to wrap the shoulder. He went for shoulder first. So I think the sin bin was warranted.
Yep.
For sure. And it'll be interesting to see how the NRL kind of deal with that.
Yep.
But
Yeah, so we'll see what happens there with Joey Taps. Looks like it could be spending some time on the sidelines. And last week, another key to victory, which we spoke about, KO Weeks. His full-time move to fullback. He did look good in the trials. He had 128 metres and 7 tackle breaks. So probably a quieter game for KO, but look, to me, 128 metres still look dangerous with the ball in hand. Still that X factor for the Raiders this season, I think. We can expect some real highlights this year from KO Weeks. But yeah, those were the keys to victory, which we spoke about last week. I think we got about, we ticked off the Raiders starting forward pack, so they were a key to victory for the Raiders, which they end up coming off and doing that, and obviously dominated with their defence. So a massive congratulations to the Raiders with their first win. Big game for them. So
I think with like Warriors fans as well, I wouldn't be too upset about this loss. I think there's a lot of good takeaways from that Warriors game. Yep. I thought their defense in that middle part of the game, when it still was a bit of an arm wrestle, they still had a lot of aggression in defense, and I think JFH brought a lot of that.
I think it was his line speed, wasn't it?
His line speed.
Yeah.
They look a lot more aggressive in defense than last year.
And I think that's one of Andrew Webster's trademarks. I think coming from Penrith, defensively orientated, I've seen him speak about defense in a lot of the press conferences around the Warriors team. So, look, we know that I think the Warriors can attack, but their line speed, I agree, Victor. I think JFH, Fisher-Harris, he's the one to lead that in the middle for the Warriors. And I do agree with you. I think, it is round one. You don't need to panic. Losses are a part of our game. Like, not playing well is a part of our game. So learning from, our mistakes or the way we've played or what to improve the following week, and as the season progresses, is a part of the game, evolving as a team. So, look, Warriors fans, I think, you guys deserve a lot of credit too. I think the Warriors fans travelled really well. Yep. I saw, I think someone got proposed to in the stands as well. 2 proposals last week.
Yeah, I think one of them was JFH's relatives, I believe. Yeah.
Sin City, the city of love for the week. They go to one of those chapels, those like little, what are they called? What are they actually called? The chapels where you go and get married? Are they called anything, or you just literally like?
I think they just go get married there.
Just like can rock up and go and get married.
Yeah. How good.
I love that.
What happens in Vegas?
On the Hangover movie, yeah. Have you ever been to Vegas, by the way?
I have, but I was too young to kind of understand what was going on. My parents brought me when I was 16, I think. And, it was quite an eye-opening experience for a 16-year-old in Vegas.
Yeah, for sure. I've done Vegas twice. One on a Bucks party, one with my wife, and two very different trips, but yes, a lot of fun. Nonetheless.
We'll have to go next year.
We'll have to go next year. Let's see if the boys can get there. We'll cover the game. We'll play the game. We'll see what happens. But that's an interesting one. We'll move on to the Sharks versus Panthers game, the headline game of round 1 in Las Vegas. 2 top 4 teams, the reigning premiers versus the Cronulla Sharks. Look, this was always going to be a massive game on paper. I think when you put 2 top 4 teams, and obviously, like we said, the Panthers, who are coming off 4 premiership wins, they've had a couple of changes to their team. They've lost, starters Jerome Luai. They lost James Fisher-Harris. Who's going to fill those voids? Who's going to replace those guys? But the Panthers just keep producing. They show that the production line out west, we spoke about it last week, something's in the water coming down off the Blue Mountains and just feeding into the Panthers junior system. Don't know what it is, but we might need to get somewhere elsewhere. And to me, look, I watched this game very closely. I was sitting there writing some notes, obviously for the podcast on my phone. I thought the Panthers, started quite ill-disciplined, I thought. They gave a lot of penalties away. Their probably completion rate early wasn't great. And that sort of led to the Sharks scoring their first try through Jesse Ramian. We'll have a little bit look at that try a little bit later on in Halfback House, where we have a look at Nicho's pass and decision there. But yeah, the Panthers, it looked like they were forcing offloads. They weren't getting their last plays right. They had some yardage errors, some passes which were hitting the deck from Dylan Edwards, a couple of them actually. And early on, it looked like a round one game, but that's kind of what happens. The timing's not there. The combinations aren't really there. These guys wouldn't have... I don't even know if they actually played a trial together, to be honest, the Panthers. And then obviously, you throw in McLean, who got knocked out, unfortunately, quite early on and stumbled. I'm pretty sure it was a Category 1, which would lead to him being off the field for the rest of the game. That would bring Dane Laurie into the game. And now what a plus for the Panthers to have Dane Laurie on the bench. Just bring him straight on. He'd go on later to score two massive tries for the Panthers. And I'm pretty sure he carried the ball for around 150 metres as well. He was huge. I thought he made a real difference when he came on. And I really liked the way the Panthers, got back to business after they sort of made those errors early. They didn't panic. They played the situations well, and they just got back to their process of what looks like to me, Panthers football, getting back, competing on kicks. Liam Martin was excellent. How many times did we see someone under the high ball and Liam Martin, just the hair just flowing in the wind and just charging, honestly, like a human missile, like no regard for his body or anything, just like flying hair back in the wind. Liam Martin, the human missile, just competing on kicks. That was incredible. A real highlight for me watching the game. I want to get your take on this, Victor. Just the Will Kennedy, when he knocked the ball out, I know you're I'm asking a one-eyed Sharks fan here, so I will. I know what he might say, but Will Kennedy was Lindsay Smith, and this play looked like to me the Panthers would come out right. They'd always drop Tago underneath. He'd come back in almost near the post. He'd skip around, get down, get a quick play of the ball, and then they'd swing back with a shift to the left. And Mitch Kenny would get a dummy half, and he hits Lindsay Smith on like a sort of drift overs line into where Britton Okora would get ahead of the line. It looked like they were sort of targeting that space inside Britton Okora. Lindsay Smith, the big fella, reaches out to put the ball down, and then Will Kennedy, to me, makes a blatant play at the ball and knocks it out. Cleary then goes and puts it down. I think it's a try. What's your take on it, Sharks fan?
Watching it, I was happy to see a no try. But yeah, look, if that happened against me, I'd be pretty annoyed. I think I would want it to be a try if it was AFB reaching over and getting that ball knocked out. But yeah, hey, look, as a Sharks fan, I was happy to see it. Didn't change the end result, unfortunately, but yeah, no. I think it's a try.
Yeah, I mean, we knew what Victor was going to say there,
look.
everyone. So, I don't know. Let's get your take on it. What do you think? Drop a comment below. Or was it a try or was it a no try? To me, it looked like he was blatantly playing at the ball, knocked it out of Lindsay Smith's hands, and Cleary would then go on to ground the ball. I thought it was a try, but yeah, let us know what you think. The next try I want to talk about is Isaac Tago's try, and this was... Nathan Cleary just really having a look at the fullback, Will Kennedy. He swung to one side. He sat Will Kennedy, swung over to the right-hand side, got the ball out the back of shape, showed under, and then kicked a chip kick straight for Tago, which to me, it kind of reminded me of the 2010 grand final. Our man, Jamie Soward, kicks for Gaznia, chips over the top. Gaznia comes through, catches it in the air, puts it down in the in goal. Let's see if we can get those two clips together and just get a bit of a similarity between the two tries, because to me, the kicks were both on point. It looked like they were planned, precision, and that's what I love. I love about footy. I love about this game is that, when you plan something, you practice something, and then you execute in the game. Like, to me, that is the best feeling. And I just think that those both two okay. We're talking about this 15, 16 years ago. And to me, they look very similar. I really love that. I think the Panthers deserve a pat on the back. And they've always been a team who are very good at set piece, who will have something prepared for a team. The way that they defend, they will pick you apart depending on the way that you defend. So I thought that was a really good play by the Panthers. We'll move on to, next part of the game, which, I guess was a heads-up play from Tricky Trindle. They would come back down the other end, the Sharks, get some field position and possession. Trindle gets out the back of shape. It opens it up, and he puts a nice little kick in for Britton Nakora. I thought Trindle was really good yesterday in a losing team. Had 2 try assists. I thought he was very, very dangerous. Threw some great path. That pass to KL Iro was really good. Hits him square on the chest. Playing hard and direct, using his centers to their best ability. And like I said, Trindle had a lot of kicks yesterday with his big boot. He was obviously goal kicking as well. So I thought that was a really good game from him. We'll move on to the second half and the Panthers and the game. To me, it did have a couple errors in it, but I just really enjoyed the game. Like, I thought it was a close game. They would go back and forth for a lot of the game. They would defend each other. They would make an error. They would attack the try line. They would defend the error. The game was, you could tell it was 2 top 4 teams because of the quality of the game. And we'll talk a little about some of the stats we spoke about last week in a minute about this game. But the Sharks, that they would sort of get themselves back in the game, and then they would kind of shoot themselves in the foot. And a really bad probably situation when the Sharks had possession, and Ronaldo looked like to me he was a bit upset about something. I thought it was maybe Liam Martin who came through, and did he clock him high?
I think that's what he got angry about.
Yeah.
Slightly high.
Yeah. So,
but yeah, Ronaldo arced up to him and gave away a penalty in a pretty crucial area.
Yeah, and look, I'm all for one. I love standing up for your teammates, but this cardinal sin in football is giving a penalty away when you have the ball, like you have possession. And Kennedy was on the ground, and like we said, looked like Liam Martin came through maybe with a swinging arm, hits Kennedy in the head, which the ref or the replays didn't see. And then Ronaldo gets up, and he obviously pushed Liam Martin. They get a bit of a scuffle, then gives away a penalty to the Panthers. And then the Panthers would then go on and score with Dane Laurie in the far corner. So that would probably make a coach's blood boil. Give away a penalty and then obviously concede points. And that's what I was talking about, where the Sharks would get themselves back in the game and they would kind of shoot themselves in the foot with their own kind of errors or mistakes. So then after that, obviously, the ebbs and flows of this game, Cronulla would then build their way back into some field position, and Adam Fanua-Blake does Adam Fanua-Blake things. Look, we spoke about him at length last week on the podcast about his ability to get between defenders and use his footwork for a big man. It's the best I've ever seen for a man his size. He gets through defenders. It was, no slouches too. Azayo, and I think Dylan Edwards was there as well. Gets straight through, uses his footwork, and then scores a try. I mean, you'd probably say that's soft defense, but I mean, you just can't stop that. Like, with him coming at you and the size he is, like, it is so hard to stop a big man with feet like that. And that's obviously why the Sharks have invested so heavily in Adam Fanua-Blake, 4-year contract on some big money. His elite footwork, which we know is going to provide Cronulla with those opportunities throughout the season. And I did see one play where the Sharks used him wide on an edge, almost like this part of the field out here with the back rowers, which the Warriors used to use quite a bit with Adam, where he scored a couple of tries, and obviously he gets the edges a little bit more worried about what's happening. But yeah, it didn't really come of too much, but I think the practice, and I think we'll see more of Adam out on the edge, teaming up with his edge back row. Maybe him and Britton Nakora teaming up together. I think that's one to keep an eye on. Yeah. Anyway, we'll move on to the end of the game. So obviously the Sharks, like I said, they did it all game. They they kept themselves in there. They kept fighting back. But then it was the Panthers who would run away with the win, 28-22. And like I said, the Sharks do deserve a lot of credit for keeping themselves in the game. 28-22. A lot of teams probably would have just, faded away at the end there. But the Sharks kept fighting. They kept fighting. And they were in it until the very end. So I no doubt if they can reduce or pull apart those errors where they kind of shot themselves in the foot, they'll be better for the run, and they'll be able to, I guess, execute, at those times in need. So let's have a look at some of the key takeaways from the game. Stats as per NRL.com. Adam Fanua-Blake, 190 metres. He ran above that 175 metre average, which we spoke about last week. We did sort of challenge, I guess, the Panthers to try and see if they could get that below the 175, but obviously Adam does add in things. 190 metres in the middle for Cronulla. Trindle, which we spoke about, 2 try assists. I thought he was great. Kicking was excellent. And obviously that pass he threw for KL Iro was great as well. Ramian, I thought, was at his tackle breaking best. 177 metres, 1 try. 8 tackle breaks. Ramian was really strong. When he carries the ball, his ability to beat defenders is incredible. Blake Brayley made 60 tackles, which is absolutely insane. The kid just consistently plays 80 minutes every week. Probably goes under the radar a lot, in my opinion. 60 tackles, I thought he was excellent. Mitch Kenny, the other starting hooker, played 80 minutes, 48 tackles. Alamotti and Edwards both ran over 200 metres. Liam Martin on the edge, 96 metres and 38 tackles. But the way he competed on those kicks for me, which was incredible, just the hunger and the desire, the human missile was getting down there. No regard for his own personal safety. We spoke about last week the stats for this game, having a look at the possession and the completion rates. Now, a lot of the time when the possession is skewed towards one way, that team generally wins. And if the completion rates are above 80% and one's marginally lower but below 80%, that team usually wins. So this game was an even split, of 50% possession. So that's probably why you can see it was such a close game. Only 1 score in it. And the completion rate, Panthers 77%, the Sharks were at 80%. So, relatively close. Obviously, both teams making a few errors early, but then would bring those completion rates back to that 80% benchmark. So those stats are obviously really close together, and that's why we saw a close game. So something for you guys to keep an eye on. You can check all those stats, NRL.com, go through the app. It'll give you everything you need to know there. So, we'll move on to... I guess the keys to victory, which we spoke about last week, which was the battle of the forward pack. The Panthers losing James Fisher-Harris. Could they sort of fill that void? And to me, it looked like they did. Lindsay Smith is now looked like the out-and-out starter there with Moses Leota. He looks like he's just sort of fall into that role like he's been there the whole time. So that was, really, I guess, a real positive for the Panthers. We spoke about the completion and possession stats for this game, and obviously they were really close. And we spoke about the defense last week on the podcast, keeping the opposition to less than 18 points, with the final margin being the final score being 28-22 with only 1 score in it. So, a lot of the time the Panthers do keep teams to below that 18. Obviously they got them to 22 on the weekend, which is not too far off. But to me, this was an excellent game, a really good game to kick off, I think. To schedule these two teams, a top 4 blockbuster in Vegas. Look, it was another good quality game. So another great way to start round 1. Anything to add there, Victor, before we wrap it up?
Yeah, like you said, I think that game was a great service to NRL.
Yeah,
to show America. As a Sharks fan, I'm really encouraged about our performance.
Yep.
I think last year, like you said, we probably would have folded in the second half, especially playing as good as we did in the first half and probably being down. I think we would have kind of folded. But yeah, having AFB there really brought us back into that game, I think.
I just think it's some of those unforced errors that the Sharks did to themselves. Like, they've shown that they're a top team, to me. So if they can reduce some of that stuff, play a little bit smarter, and like I said, like you just said, some teams who aren't as good there, they fade away, and the Panthers just they'll go and score a couple more tries, and then the result will be like 40-16 or something or whatever it is, So I agree with you, mate. I think, the Sharks do deserve, even though he's a Sharks fan, Victor the Inflictor. Mate, we'll move on.
It's better than that preliminary last season, so it's good. It's good. Improvements.
We'll move on next, mate. What do we got?
Big Footy Guy of the Week.
Big Footy Guy of the Week. So this is it, guys. This is the chance for you guys to be involved in the podcast. We're going to nominate 3 guys which we thought on the weekend were our big footy guys of the week, and we're going to give you a chance to vote. So head over to our Instagram at Chad Townsend Show. You'll see the post, you'll see the graphic, you'll see our nominations. All you need to do is vote. Drop us a comment there on your thoughts on these couple of players and who you think deserves big footy guy of the week, and we'll pick the winner. $50 thanks to the playersgolfclub.com.au. You can head over there, shop all your polos, merch, accessories, t-shirts, hats, everything's there. So our nominations are Xavier Savage from the Canberra Raiders. We spoke about him before earlier on the podcast. 218 metres, 2 tries, 7 tackle breaks, and I wrote this in here as well, 6 tackles. LOL. which is actually a lot for a winger, to be honest. 6 tackles. I've seen wingers make 0 tackles before in a game. A stat I'll never forget, just quickly before we move on. Sasaya Feki, my old teammate at the Sharks, one time we played a game, his stat line was 2 tries, 0 tackles. Man, absolutely incredible. Wingers just out there doing winger things. But Xavier Savage, like we said, he deserves his flowers, an incredible performance, and he looks like he's hit the ground running. Again, off the back of a big 2024, he looks like he's going to bring that form into 2025. Our next nominee is Isaiah Yeo. The Panthers captain was at his barnstorming best in the middle. To me, 121 metres, 47 tackles, 1 try, and I thought he was huge in the middle. Just like all the little dirty work that he's doesn't get as much credit for, but his ability to sort of pass, be that link man, and either show and dig in, and obviously his leadership just to keep the Panthers calm and in the game, to me was really positive. So Isaiah Yeo is our second nominee. Our third nominee, which we're picking from the Super League game. Now, we're not covering the Super League game at length today, but we just want to give a big shout out to Bevan French. Victor, I know you're a big fan of this guy. Had left the NRL a couple of years ago. Mate, what did you think of Bevan French from the Wigan Warriors in Super League?
He looked incredible.
Yeah.
He looks like he could come back into the NRL any day of the week.
Yeah,
which I think there are news reports of him possibly doing that with the new franchise. But yeah, in this game, incredible. Like 1 try assist, and ran for 209 metres. I think he was playing starting hooker. 10 tackle breaks as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Just incredible.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's hard to keep tabs of what positions these guys are actually playing because their numbers just stay the same the whole time. But yeah, had a hand in most of Wigan's tries. He was man of the match in the Super League Grand Final last year. He's been over in the Super League for a couple of years now. He's openly spoken about he'd like to come back to the NRL. Yeah, I guess we'll see what that happens. Obviously, there's a couple of teams coming in the near future. Bevan French, looks like he's on fire over there in the Super League, and I think he wouldn't look out of place if he came back to the NRL at some stage. So have your say on our poll at Chad Townsend Show on the Instagram, and we'll send the winner a Players Golf Club voucher to the winner who gets involved in our community. All right, next up, we're going to look at Halfback House, and we're going to look at Nicho Hynes versus Nathan Cleary. Obviously, we spoke about them at length during our review of the Panthers versus Sharks game, but Nathan Cleary, we're gonna have a quick look at his stats from the game. He had 61 touches of the ball, which is kind of like it's probably a benchmark of halves to definitely be above 50. You want to be touching the ball a lot. Obviously, halves, other than the dummy half, touch the ball the most. So 61 touches of the ball. He had 1 try assist, which we spoke about, that kick to Tago, which was just incredible. He had 19 tackles, 17 kicks, but it was that try kick to Tago, which we spoke about before, where he sat behind the short side, got Kennedy to come in onto the line, have a look, and then swung out to the right, and then puts that delicate chip over to the top. Where Tago came through and scored. Look, I thought that was a real piece of brilliance from Nathan Cleary. His kicking game throughout the match was precision. 17 kicks. The amount of times he put the Sharks back inside their own half, making them come off their own line, I thought was really impressive. And then Nicho Hynes, he had 59 touches of the ball, so very similar to the Nicho Hynes 61. Obviously, you want your star players, your best players touching the ball, the most other than your dummy half. So 59 touches of the ball. He had that one try assist as well. Now let's have a quick look at that try assist. It was the Sharks where they would sort of play the ball in that midfield range around the post, and Trindle and Hynes both swung to the right together. Looked to me that it was Trindle's call to swing to the right. His communication into break Brayley. They would fall in where they would have the lead lines and sweep lines with middles and the back rower. Trindle turns square and plays nice and direct with Britton Nakora, and because Britton Nakora is well known for his lead lines or his hard running lines, he had the ability to sit. I think it was Jack Cole, and then get out the back. And then Nicho did what Nicho does. He looks to play along. And obviously, Dane Laurie had just come on the field with McLean, who went off with that HIA. So, the Sharks did a great job of going to that edge straight away where they could see there was a potential weakness. Nicho got out the back, and then, like I said, his ability to look long. Laurie's worried about that long ball because that's what Nicho does. He'll do to you. He'll throw long, and then he just held short, plays to Ramian off his hip, and then Ramian goes through and scores. So, what a delicate pass there from Nicho Hynes. Both of these halves are very similar games, but obviously you can see that obviously one team won, one team lost. Obviously, the halfback who won the game obviously gets more credit, but even though their stats are kind of very similar, the only thing that was probably, just quickly, Nicho, 23 tackles and 4 kicks compared to Nathan's 17 kicks. Now, this is something I wanted to touch on. Since Trindle has been the full-time starter at 6 for the Sharks, especially at the back end of last year in that final series, he's really taken on more of a role with the kicking game. And in Nicho's first couple of years with the Sharks, look, to me, I thought Nicho was a great kicker of the ball. His ability to kick to corners, he's got a fairly big boot on him. But Trindle, tricky Trindle's, that's one of his biggest strengths is his kicking game. He's got a delicate short kicking game. He can also kick long, and now he's even goal kicking as well. So I think that's been an adjustment that the Sharks have made. Even though Trindle is on the left side of the field, a lot of the time he gets the passes from here and the pressure comes this way, and obviously right foot on the inside, sometimes it's harder to get the kick away and it can kind of skew and go out of bounds, where if you're on the right side of the field, you can get the pass from this way, you can get out, and as a right foot, you can hit it down into the right corner. So he's not only, Trindle's not only delivering, he's doing it on the tougher side of the field for a right footer. So, like I said, both of these halves, their stats are very similar. Obviously, the kicks are a little bit different. And I think a half can really control a game with his kicking game. But obviously, Nicho only having 4 kicks, he's got to then go to his running game, which I think is one of his biggest strengths. So I think that's what the Sharks are looking to do with Nicho. Just kind of let him not worry about the game management or the plan or the kicking, and let him just focus on his running game and try and bring that out as one of his biggest strengths. So, halfback house, Nathan Cleary versus Nicho Hynes this week. Cleary gets the win on points, even though the stats are pretty similar. But that's it for this week. We'll move on to the next.
What's trending next week? Round 1, TLT tomorrow.
Yeah.
What is your kind of views on the games next week?
Yeah, so here we go, fam. What's trending in the NRL? Round 1 is here. Obviously, 2 games already completed. Team list Tuesday tomorrow. Always enjoy Team List Tuesday because round 1, sometimes you see a few surprises. Not every player loves preseason. Some players have good preseasons. Some players have poor preseasons with regards to their training or their availability, their injury, or whatever it may be. You usually see a few surprises. Team List Tuesdays, a lot of debuts, young kids getting their chance, old guys getting their chance. You see. What else do you see? You see, just some surprise selections. Obviously, guys competing for the same position. Obviously, coach making a decision for whatever reason it may be. Team List Tuesday in round 1, I think everyone loves to see. So keep an eye out for some of those surprises. Obviously, the first game this Thursday night is the Roosters versus the Broncos at Allianz Stadium. Massive game for us against the Broncos this weekend. The Broncos come off some really good trial form. And yeah, our trial form hasn't been too great. We've obviously got a little bit to work on, but we've been working really hard and really excited for the opportunity against the Broncos, which is coming up. The Dolphins versus the Rabbitohs. The Rabbitohs, no Cody Walker, no Latrell Mitchell, and no Cam Murray. So I think Lewis Dodd may even be suspended as well. Yeah.
Jamie Humphries looks to fill
Jamie
that role,
Humphries,
I believe.
the young fella. I'm pretty sure he's from the Shire.
And Wayne Bennett back against his old...
And Wayne Bennett back against the Dolphins. So he goes against Christian Wolf, which will be an interesting one to see. Obviously, the master versus the apprentice there with the coaches. Look, to me, losing those 3 guys or 4 guys is going to be a real tough ask for the Rabbitohs. But also, like you said just before, with regards to the team, Luce, it gives these younger guys an opportunity. Jamie Humphries looks like he's going to potentially start at halfback, which will be great to see him get a go and show us what he can do. The Dolphins... look, to me, I think they're almost at full strength. To be honest, have a relatively good preseason. It's going to be really, really exciting to see Hammer go. Cody Nikorima, who I thought was excellent last year, back on the field. And yeah, it's going to be...
Isaiah Kotoa, another year of first grade under his belt. He looks like a star. So
yeah, definitely. Look, I think
excited to see him this year.
Love how square he plays. Kotoa, just love the way he digs into the line, creates space for his outside man. I think the combination between him and Nikorima is one to keep an eye on for sure. The Dragons, then up, we've got the Dragons versus the Bulldogs. Look, it's going to be the first official time that Val, Gutho and Cookie all make their Dragons debuts off what was a relatively strong preseason from the Dragons. From the outside looking in, things look really good at St. George at the moment. Obviously, it sounds like they've had a pretty tough preseason under Flano and Lawso down there. So keep an eye out for the Dragons versus Bulldogs. It's going to be a pretty big game. This game always draws like massive crowds. Both of these teams have a really big following. So this will be an interesting game. Obviously, the Bulldogs coming off the back of that heartbreaking loss in the finals last season, but had a relatively strong year last year. I'd say their last trial wasn't their best performance for the Dogs, but to me, this is going to be a big game, and I expect both teams to probably play a little bit different come this game on the weekend. Next up, we've got the Sea Eagles versus the Cowboys. Tom Duffy, the youngster, the young halfback, young Duff, looks to make his NRL debut. Look, for me, I just want to say all the best stuff if he's watching here or if he hears about this. Look, I want to say massive congratulations to you, Duff. I've seen you work hard. I've seen you develop your game over the past couple of years. You deserve this crack. You deserve this opportunity. I know how much you want it. I know how much training you've done by yourself. I know how much time you've put into your game, and I'm really excited for you and your family to be a local North Queensland kid, a Townsville kid, to make his debut for the Cowboys is something special. I know that means a lot to you and the club, so I'm really excited for him. I know Duff knows the system up there inside and out. He's been in the NRL squad for a couple of years, 21 years old, I think Duff is. Quality golfer as well, quality person, and look, had a really good trial game against the Storm. So look, keep an eye out for Duff this weekend as he makes his NRL debut. The Cowboys, look, I'm really excited to see the Cowboys, to watch the Cowboys this season as ex-player of the Cowboys. I think for me, I know the Cowboys system inside and out, obviously spending 3 years there with their defensive principles and obviously the way they attack. I could probably sit there and watch the way they attack. And obviously they would have changed things from last season, but I've got a lot of combinations with those guys and the field positions and the plays that we used to run. And look, I look forward to watching these guys, and obviously Drinkwater, Tommy Dearden, Reece Robson, Jason Tamalalo. These guys are all, Muzz, man, just the list goes on. I miss those boys, and I really wish them all the best this year, except when they play us. But yeah, look, I'm looking forward to watching the Cows this year, that's for sure. Anything on that, Victor, from you?
Yeah, I think a lot of people were writing them off, right? Losing you and Val. And in that trial against the Storm, they kind of showed that they're still a real quality side. So, like you said, really excited. I think they'll still go really well this year. Yeah,
and I think they've got some young kids, like we just spoke about Duff. You've got Jackson Purdue as well, who's come in. Zach Labutt, who's just coming back from injury as well. A couple of other young guys who I've got no doubt will get their opportunities as well. Some really good kids up there in North Queensland. So, yeah, I wouldn't be writing off the Cowboys that's for sure. Next up, Storm versus Para. Now the Storm, big three. It looks like a back. I'm not sure. Actually, I'm not sure about Pappenhausen. His availability. Obviously, we'll find out more on Team List Tuesday. Victor, anything to add?
I think Bellamy said he would be injured for this round. He's still out, so I think we'd be looking at Farlongo for round one.
Okay.
From what I've been reading.
Yeah. So interesting one there. Sorry for. Excuse me. For the Storm. Yeah. Obviously, Jerome Hughes and Munster back. We know what type of football those guys can throw up. They're obviously going to be a massive key for the Storm. And then Utoika Manu in the front row, set to make his Storm debut. To me, I just don't know how the Storm do it. With their team last year and the roster that they had to make the grand final, and then you chuck in New South Wales forward Utoika Manu as a starting front rower. I know they've lost Christian Welch, but it's just like, wow, this roster or this team basically hasn't changed, and you add just another piece in the middle of go forward. I feel like if he can get back to his best and sort of be back in that origin fold this season, you pair up Utoika Manu with Nelson Asafa Solomona. Is that not the biggest? Is that the biggest front row combination you've ever
That's
seen?
scary. That's scary.
That is absolutely scary.
Yeah.
Man, to me, that's a definite a plus for the Storm. Wow, imagine playing on the back of those two big boppers going forward. Yeah, it is. It's one to keep an eye on. That's for sure. Obviously, for Parramatta, they bring in new coach Jason Riles, who makes his first head coaching debut this weekend against the Storm. I think he worked a couple of years at the Storm as an assistant under Craig Bellamy. So there's another one of, I guess, head coach versus master versus apprentice kind of situations. And obviously Craig Bellamy is looking to continue that streak of winning round one every single season in his whole head coaching career. I think it's 21 years in a row.
That's wild. That's crazy.
Which is insane. You'd think that if you're like, that's how much round one means to the Storm. Like, they want to keep the streak alive. That'll be one to watch. And obviously Mitch Moses just signs a new 5-year extension. I mean, let's give it back just a round of applause. Yeah, wow. Mitch Moses signs a 5-year extension. Mitch Moses, I'm pretty sure he's over 30 now. 31? I don't know. But, 5-year extension to 2029, I'm pretty sure it was.
30.
He's 30. So gets the 35, 5-year extension. Good on him. Secures the bag. Well done to Mitch Moses. And the Titans have the bye, which we were big on last week in their last trial game. They were huge. Obviously, those three fullbacks, which we spoke about at length last year, they have the bye round one. I'm not sure when you definitely wouldn't want your bye round one. No, definitely not. You want to start playing. You want to use that bye as like a week off rest, like later in the year. From halfway to the last round. To me, you don't want to buy round one
because all the teams would have, I guess, 1 week extra of kind of match fitness and game fitness, and you're coming in next week.
Yeah,
it'll be your first game.
No,
but still, Titans have a cracker squad, and I don't put it past them
to me. Yeah, definitely
come out firing next week.
Yeah, of course, definitely. We spoke about them last week. Their team, I think they're going to be big movers this year with their attack and also their defense. Their second year under Des Hasler as well. Tino's back in the team, back in the side. Looks fit and healthy. So look, keep an eye out for the Titans. Mate, we'll move on.
Some fan questions,
mate. What do we? Let's go. What do we got here?
Got more of a statement than a question from Pond Explorer. Love the new format and look forward to tuning in each week. Congrats, fellas.
Yeah, look, love this. Pond Explorer. We want to give you a shout out, your YouTube channel at Pond Explorer, and the profile pic is a pink frog, just completely exploring ponds. Love the new format and look forward to tuning in. Look, we really appreciate your support. If you do enjoy the podcast, make sure you rate and review and obviously subscribe here on YouTube. We do appreciate your support. So Pond Explorer, massive shout out to you and thank you very much for sending in that comment. What's next?
TM Michael asks, during finals time, how about a top 10 now rather than a top 8? We've had 2 additional teams in the last 15 years and soon to be a third. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, originally when I read this question, I was like, no way. But the more that I actually look at it, the more that I think of it, the more I'm actually open to it. I think with the expansion of these teams in a couple of years, I think that, the NBA, I compare it to like the NBA play-in game where these teams, they have like a game where they play in to get into the finals, the final series. So I don't actually mind it. It is an extra game. I potentially could be an extra game, which I'm not a fan of because I think the season needs to be reduced. But top 10, I think, if we're looking at 17, 18, 19 teams, like 20 teams, whatever it is in the future, I think top 10 could potentially work. And having those bottom 2 teams play in for a chance or whatever it may be, the bottom 3, I'm not sure how it would actually work, but I don't actually mind your thinking at T. Michael 1991. Victor, anything?
Yeah, it's not a
bad
idea, actually. Yeah. I kind of like it. It would keep a lot more fans involved as well come into the season, which is always great.
Yeah, and I mean, realistically, obviously we know if you don't finish in the top 4, then you don't win. So
yeah,
we'll see what happens.
I like it.
Last one.
The Real Hero 747 says, "Hey CT, who do you think is the most underrated player in the NRL at the moment?"
Oh, that's a tough one. There's a lot of underrated players in our game. I think Jamal Fogarty, underrated.
Yep.
I think Blake Brayley, underrated. I think... who else is there? I don't know, just like those players who don't have the biggest names but are like so vital to their team. They don't always necessarily have the big stats or the big plays, but you can just tell how much they mean to a team. And I'm actually on the spot here, so I will go ahead with Fogarty. I really like him as a player.
I think yesterday showed that as well.
Definitely.
What he means to that Raiders squad.
Yeah.
Leading around a pretty young backline and spine. I think he's crucial.
For sure. And to me, just quickly, that's going to be a really interesting situation, a scenario as it plays out. Fogarty's off contract at the Raiders, and the Raiders have just signed Ethan Sanders, a young gun halfback from Parramatta. So, they obviously want to give Sanders a path to the NRL, but obviously having Fogarty there, I think he's 31 years old now, off contract. Let's keep an eye on this situation because we know, like we just said, how underrated Fogarty is. But yeah, I mean, his time could be coming to an end at the Raiders. They might want to give Sanders the chance to start. He might have to leave and go play elsewhere, and that's just unfortunate. The business of the NRL. So just one to keep an eye on. Look, yesterday I thought he was excellent. Obviously, Victor, you just mentioned his importance to the team. Anything else to add there on that?
No, that's.
Yeah, perfect. So Fogarty, let's just go with Fogarty. Underrated player in the NRL, Fogarty. I really like Jamal.
And to touch on Blake Brayley, 60 tackles, like you said earlier.
Of course, you're going to touch on Sharks player.
Yeah, of course. I just want to say, is he not like one of the most durable hookers for his size?
For sure. Plays 80 minutes every week. I'm pretty sure he's on a 104-game playing streak. Hasn't missed a game for a couple of years straight. Plays 80 minutes in the middle at a much lighter weight than everyone else. Tackles big guys all game. Making 60 tackles in a game for 27 weeks for 10 years plus is probably not sustainable. But, I mean, we'll see how that plays out. But, yeah, obviously 60 tackles. Wow. Yeah, that's absolutely insane. Could not imagine making 60 tackles in a game. So... That's it, guys. Look, we want to say a massive thank you to everyone who has been tuning into the podcast. If you listen on audio, iTunes, Spotify, make sure you rate and review us there. We really appreciate your support. And if you're watching on YouTube, please make sure you do subscribe to the channel. It means a lot to us, your support. Obviously, liking this video and commenting your questions on this video really help us push this video out there so we can do this, a lot more times. That's the plan. We want to be here every week this season. So we really appreciate your support from the bottom of our hearts. And we want to say a massive thank you to you guys for tuning in. And we'll see you guys on the next episode.